Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Alisé A Préjéan. So, happy new moon in Aries. The new moon in Aries is happening on March 21st, and that's 10:23 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's 1:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can translate that to wherever you are in the world. And with all new moons, this is a new initiation, but this is a special initiation because it is the beginning of the astrological new year. And so we've just finished Pisces season. We've culminated the last year of initiations that began at the last Aries new moon in 2022. I always like to really look at the new year according to the astrological new year, because this makes it really easy for our mind to really look at our explorations of consciousness and our initiations in consciousness in this last cycle, the last year. So since Aries season of 2022. And Aries is a sign that is guided by or ruled by Mars. And so this is how we take action on behalf of who we are. And we initiate a new emergence from the last cycle, from this Piscean consciousness where we actually have come into fruition from the last initiation cycle, right? And Pisces is the ocean of consciousness. And so we now, at this equinox, so wherever you are in the world, whether it's a spring or autumn equinox, we're emerging out of an old cycle and into a new cycle. So we're initiating new things, and we're actually initiating a new identity by our initiations. And so with this new moon in Aries, it's a very special new moon because it is in Aries. It's ruled by Mars, where we are really taking action on whatever it is that we dream ourselves into being. And so we're planting seeds, Mars, right? We're planting seeds. And so this particular new moon is really interesting as well because Mars has a very special relationship with Pluto, because Pluto and Mars rule or guide Scorpio consciousness. And so where Mars and its rulership of Aries is how we're initiating a new identity, a new becoming based on the desires of the soul, what's in the unconscious, what's brewing underneath the surface of consciousness. So as Mars is the also a planetary ruler of Scorpio with Pluto, we want to keep this in mind because Pluto is actually bringing big changes this month. So Pluto, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, you likely already know, Pluto is dipping its toes into Aquarius skies, into our own Aquarian consciousness individually. What houses is happening for you? This is going to be showing what aspect of life Pluto is going to be really doing what it does best, which is really cleansing the psyche and really exposing where it is that we keep our own true empowerment at bay, where it is that we are maybe could be holding on to things that are no longer in service to our evolutionary momentum and evolutionary purpose. Now, Pluto is moving into Aquarius on March 23rd/24th, and This is very big changes. This is very, very big changes. Anytime an outer planet particularly moves into a new sign, we definitely notice it. And so Pluto moving into Aquarius on March 23rd, there's a lot to talk about in that. And if you're interested, you're certainly welcome to follow me on Facebook. And I'll put the link in the description box to my personal page and my astrology page as well. And I have talked about it. I talked about it in a recent live that I did, where I really looked at the Pluto ingress chart of Pluto moving into Aquarius. And that live was titled Culminating Pisces Season. So you can check that out if you'd like. I also did a podcast with another astrologer. His name is Bradley Naragon. And we talked a lot about Pluto moving into Aquarius. We're going to continue a series of podcasts about Pluto and Aquarius. And so you can also find that on my personal page and on Facebook. So have a look if you like. I absolutely love the way that the conversation naturally unfolded with Bradley about Pluto and Aquarius. It's very informative. And so I do highly recommend checking it out. So being that Pluto is moving into Aquarius, this is an important new moon because this is going to happen in Aries season. And as I said, Mars and Pluto have a very special relationship to each other. Mars acts on behalf of Pluto. Mars is our instinctual nature. So we act without forethought. I mean, we wouldn't want to have to always think about how we're acting. Although it is good, but this is the thing. In other words, it is good to act, to really think about your actions, but we're not always able to do that. So we have a default mode, right? And this default mode is indicated by Pluto and the unconscious. So how it is that we act on behalf of our own inclinations and our own evolutionary momentum is how, that actually translates into our default modes, Pluto. And so we can always look to our instincts, Mars, how we're instinctually acting, to really see if we're in alignment with our true power, or if there are areas in which we are not plugged in to our true power and we may feel disempowered. And this is what's so special about a new moon in Aries, because we can actually initiate something new in regards to how we act on behalf of our own true power. And so, being that this is the beginning of the astrological year, this is a really good time to really be looking at how we act on behalf of our own true power. Are we in alignment? Are we plugged in with our true power? How is it that we actually act on behalf of our desires? What it is that we envision for ourselves? Remembering that Pisces is that part of us that dreams ourselves into existence. We have this vision. We envision our highest becoming, our ideal selves, the self that we would like to experience. And so as we've emerged out of this Piscean consciousness, we can now initiate these new becomings, this new version of ourselves, new experiences, new evolutionary momentum and growth. So, in this new moon in Aries, the sun is at literally not even 1 degree. It's at 50 minutes into Aries. And of course, that also means the moon is there as well. So anytime you have a new moon, you have the sun and moon in a conjunction, which means in the same degree of the sky, so the same alignment within the sky, this time in Aries, right? And we have Mercury in a new phase conjunction with the sun and moon. And, well, I should say the moon is in a, let's get technical here. The moon is actually in a balsamic conjunction to Mercury, okay? Balsamic conjunction means it's completing a cycle. So emotionally, we're completing a cycle in regards to our mercurial energy. What does that mean? It means that our thoughts, ideas, perceptions, definitions, connections, there's something that we're emotionally coming to completion with. We're feeling resolve. And I bring this to our attention because Mars in this new moon chart is waxing a quincunx to Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto is in the last 2 minutes of Capricorn, and Mars is almost quincunx in Gemini, a Mercury ruled sign. Now, what's interesting about the quincunx is that it is a aspect or energy that reveals a adjustment that we must make in order to really fine-tune these two planetary functions in our own consciousness and through the avenue of the signs that they're in. So Mars, remember, has a special relationship with Pluto. So the fact that they're in a quincunx is very interesting. This is a Virgoan quincunx. It's a Virgoan aspect, which is the archetypal consciousness that has to do with self-improvement, refinement, and discernment, as well as can be crises. Sometimes Virgo needs this crisis in consciousness in order to really be nudged into that self-improvement that's necessary. And in this case, this can have everything to do with our thoughts, perceptions, ideas, connections, definitions around power, around how we act on behalf of our own needs, and really around the restructuring of our yin internal consciousness, Capricorn, how we're structuring our consciousness, and from an internal level. Now remember that when Pluto moves into Aquarius, it's going to be exposing how we're structuring our consciousness out there. Out there, I put in quotes, because out there can only reflect what's in here, right? So it's going to really be looking from a different angle in the way in which we're actually structuring our consciousness, and the work that we've been doing while Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. So Mars in a quincunx, a Virgoan aspect, self-improvement, maybe a crisis in consciousness where we need to make an adjustment around how we act on our own behalf, meaning can be how we're defining ourselves, how we define our identity. Remember, Mars is the planetary ruler and guide to this new moon. So how, Mars Gemini, how are we defining ourselves? How are we actually really thinking about ourselves and our identity? What are our perceptions around that? What ideas are we buying into in regards to our own identity as well? This can be the opportunity to make the adjustments so that we can actually become the new leading edge of our own true empowerment, as Pluto will be moving into Aquarius, which is going to be squaring the fixed grand cross in the sky, the fixed grand cross in our own charts, birth charts, natal charts, the fixed grand cross within our own psyche and psychological development. And this is the Yin, Taurus, and Scorpio axis of consciousness, and how it squares the yang fixed signs of Leo and Aquarius, axes of consciousness. And so, we're beginning a new journey with Pluto moving into Aquarius that's going to be for 20 years. So we're going to have 20 years of really working with, really coming online with our own true power. We've had the nodes of the moon in Taurus and Scorpio, and as Pluto moves into Aquarius, it's going to be squaring the nodes. So square is always going to be experienced as pressure. But if you've been following me, you know the way that we experience that pressure is our relationship to pressure itself, how we relate to pressure, how we relate to tension, and remembering that the tension builds energy. It builds momentum. What do you want to do with that momentum? Because as you really consider what you want to do with that momentum, this is where you can truly harness this energy and this power in order to really initiate something new in your life and really be actually harnessing your life force energy and the regenerative aspects that can come with any Pluto transit. So this new moon with this Mars in a quincunx to Pluto is really helpful. And, again, remembering that this is part of this wave of energy, right, that is going to eventually be on the ingress of the Pluto entering Aquarius. And guess what happens on that day is the moon will have gone all the way through Aries, and then it will actually come into a conjunction with the North Node in Taurus and in a first quarter square to Pluto in Aquarius. So remember, the square builds energy, right? Well, it's going to build emotional energy. So we can have turbulent emotions, but what do we want to do with that? Because then what happens is that on March 25th, Mars finally moves out of Gemini and moves into Cancer, where Pluto, so in this axis of consciousness, where Pluto has been since 2008, right? So Mars is going to then oppose Capricorn, where Pluto's just moved out of. And what's beautiful about that is remembering that Mars always acts on behalf of Pluto, right? So we get a transit of Mars in Cancer that's going to actually assist us in really assessing how well we've cultivated internal emotional security with Pluto moving through Capricorn. And we can know this by our instincts. So as that emotional energy brews when Pluto moves into Aquarius, remember that if you're experiencing turbulent emotions, that emotion can build energy towards actually really solidifying all the work that we've been doing with Pluto and Capricorn. And if we find that our instinctual nature isn't truly in alignment with harnessing our own power and our own emotional security, then we can actually utilize that information so that we can make the adjustments necessary to really actually embody the new identity that we desire to emerge and that desires to move through us, right? The quality of consciousness that we desire to move through us, right? So, and what's interesting is after that Pluto moves into Aquarius and the moon is square to Pluto, then it's going to move over the North Node, then it's going to be moving over Venus and then moving over Uranus. And so we're going to have these waves of energy just emotionally moving, right? And as the moon reaches Uranus, and remember the moon moves very fast through a sign, it's like 2.5 days. So this is very quick, but just remember that these experiences, these circumstances are likely have been brewing already, right? It's just finally likely coming out in some way or another. So as the moon approaches Uranus, this is about really recognizing the necessary updates that are necessary for us, the necessary transformations, how we could actually integrate what's happening for us and what is new for us. And also, just remember that Taurus is really about slowing down. So if we need to slow down in order to integrate whatever information is coming online for us personally in our own lives, then it is about taking care of yourself so that you can integrate in a new way. You can reintegrate in a new way, recalibrate in a new way, because Uranus can also be where we actually fragment consciousness if we don't take the time for that reintegration. And so we want to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, taking care of our body, because also Pluto, when it moves into Aquarius, will be conjunct an asteroid named Hygeia. And this has to do with our hygiene, our health, and vitality. And Taurus, it's going to be squaring Taurus, right? And it's squaring the nose in Taurus. So this is important because Taurus is our body consciousness. So we're going to want to be paying attention to how we're feeling, what we're sensing. And really, if we need to take the time to do that, it's important for us to do that so that we can reintegrate in new ways and integrate whatever's coming up for us personally, and taking care of ourselves. So and harnessing the power that is there for us and the regenerative aspects that's there as we have Pluto square the nodes, right? So this new moon is really preparing us for that. And we know that Saturn has freshly moved into Pisces. And, understand that being that Neptune's in Pisces, Saturn will eventually come a conjunct Neptune. So in other words, fuse with Neptune, right? And this really shows that there is a reality that is dissolving. And this is so that a new reality can emerge. And we can utilize this to our advantage, knowing that this is going to be happening within the next 2.5 years, because Saturn moves through Pisces for 2.5 years. So whatever it is that we are initiating at this new moon, it is very powerful into the new beginnings that are actually coming this year in 2023. We know that Jupiter's going to move into Taurus and then conjunct the North Node, eventually conjunct Uranus. And so there's a lot of big changes that are happening this year. And so we really want to really pay attention to the new moons and to the initiations that we desire for ourselves, taking action on them. This is a great time to actually really take some form of action at this new moon towards that which you desire to become and that which you desire to initiate in your life. And how is it that you are projecting your consciousness towards an evolutionary momentum into this desired result that you wish to embody and this identity that you wish to embody? So I hope this is helpful. And if you have any thoughts, insights, experiences you'd like to share in the comments, please do. It always makes the conversation more rich, and I absolutely love interacting with you. So I would love to converse with you in the comments if you'd like. And if you feel that this is helpful, please do feel free to share it. And if you find any valuable information here, you can also like the video, because that does assist in its distribution. And of course, you're always welcome to subscribe to my channel if you feel inclined. And I will see you on the next video.